Eager to enjoy sense gratification. Man-like animals. Ye who upasate worship very gorgeously. Vibhutihi, small particles of the Supreme Lord. The demigods. Na, not. Param, the Supreme. Tva, you. Tesha, of them. Ashishaha, the benedictions. Isha, O Supreme Controller. Tat, them, the demigods. Anu, after. Vinashyanti, will be vanquished. Yatha, just as. Rajakulam, those who are supported by the government. And the government is finished. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. O Lord, O Supreme, unintelligent persons who thirst for sense enjoyment and who worship various demigods are no better than animals in the human form of life. Because of their animalistic propensities, they fail to worship your Lordship and instead they worship the insignificant demigods who are but small sparks of your glory. With the destruction of the entire universe, including the demigods, the benedictions received from the demigods also vanish, just like the nobility when a king is no longer in power. Please repeat the translation. O Lord, O Supreme, unintelligent persons who thirst for sense enjoyment and who worship various demigods are no better than animals in the human form of life. Because of their animalistic propensities, they fail to worship your Lordship and instead they worship the insignificant demigods. the demigods also vanish. Just like the nobility, when a king is no longer in power. But Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 20 says, Kamaistaistya krita jnana prapadyante anya devata. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto the demigods. Similarly, this verse condemns worship of the demigods. We may show our respect to the demigods, but the demigods are not worshipable. The intelligence of those who worship the demigods is lost, Kritajnana, because these worshippers do not know that when the entire material cosmic manifestation is annihilated, the demigods, who are the departmental heads of that manifestation, will be vanquished. When the demigods are vanquished, the benedictions given by the demigods to unintelligent men will also be vanquished. Therefore, a devotee should not hanker or obtain material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but should engage in the service of the Lord, who will satisfy all his desires. Akama sarva kamova moksha kama udanadhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether full of material desires, free from material desires, or desiring liberation, a person who has broader intelligence must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. This is the duty of a perfect human being. One who has the shape of a human being, but whose actions are nothing but those of an animal, is called Narapashu or Tripada Pashu, or two-legged animal. A human being who is not interested in Krishna consciousness is condemned herewith as a Narapashu. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnana Janashanakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Kamraya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshatayine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Chitraketu is offering his prayers to the Supreme Lord. In this verse, Chitraketu is describing the position of a person who doesn't recognize the Supreme Lord and goes to various demigods to satisfy his material desires. Vishaya Drisho Narapashavo. So he is comparing the human beings who are full of Trisha. Trisha means they are very eager to enjoy Vishaya. Vishaya means sense objects. Those who are fully eager to enjoy the sense objects, Vishaya Trisho Narapashavo Yaupasate Vibhutir Na Paramtva. So he is telling those who are fully eager for sense gratification, they are nothing but two-legged animals, and they upasate vibhutihi. They worship the vibhutis. Vibhuti Bhinnam, but the Lord says that his opulences are spread everywhere. One of his vibhuti is the various demigods, or the departmental heads of this universe. So it's explained by Prabhupada the position of the demigods, who are they and how they have to be offered respects. In this material world, the various conditioned souls have been given a chance by the Supreme Lord Himself to satisfy their desires to enjoy independently. And in order to satisfy their material desires, the Lord has made certain arrangement. And as they satisfy their material desires, gradually the Lord wants to teach them that they cannot be happy in this way. And He wants them to become fully Krishna conscious and engage in the gratification of Krishna's senses. Originally, that was the reason for which all the energies are expanded from the Supreme Lord Himself. The Supreme Lord Himself is expanded into Vishnu Tattvas and Jiva Tattvas. So various expansions are meant for the gratification of the Lord Himself. So now those conditioned souls who have understood the truth that actually we cannot be happy in this material world, they just understand their Supreme Lord Krishna, who is the source of everything. But still they have some material desires. They are not fully free from material desires. They are given the post of demigods. It's just like in a prison house. Suppose there are some criminals and their punishments are say 50 years or sometimes lifelong imprisonment. So what to do? So those criminals will settle down in the jail, and after some time they will be, when they become senior criminals, they will be given some responsible posts in the prison house only to maintain and guide the new criminals properly. So in the same way, this cosmic manifestation is a jail, and the fallen souls, Baddha Jivas, they are all criminals. Some criminals have understood that actually we cannot be happy here, but still that material desire will not go away so soon. Still there is a tendency to lord over. So such people will be given a chance to lead or lord over other living beings. So they are called the demigods. So now, at the same time, even though demigods are ordinary conditioned souls like any one of us, they should not be disrespected, they should not be neglected. This is exemplified by Lord Chaitanya himself. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Varanasi, on the way to Vrindavan he would go there, and he would always visit Lord Vishveshwara. Lord Vishveshwara, Lord Shiva, is the presiding deity of Varanasi. Prabhu ebe yana Vishveshwara darshane laksha laksha loka asi mile se sthane. When the Lord went to visit the temple of Vishveshwara, hundreds and thousands of people assembled to see him. So every day Lord Chaitanya would go to have darshan of Lord Vishveshwara or Lord Shiva. So here Prabhupada explains the important point in this verse is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishveshwara or Lord Shiva at Varanasi. Vaishnavas generally do not visit a demigod's temple, but here we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishveshwara, who was the predominating deity of Varanasi. Generally, Mayavadis and worshippers of Lord Shiva live in Varanasi. But how is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who took part of a Vaishnava sannyasi, also visited Vishveshwara temple? Is a question. Vaishnavas generally they don't worship any demigods, they don't go to any devatas temples. So the answer is that a Vaishnava does not behave impudently toward the demigods. A Vaishnava gives proper respect to all, although he never accepts a demigod to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This mistake a Vaishnava doesn't do. He gives proper respect to the demigods, he doesn't act impudently. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has gone to Varanasi, where the presiding deity of Varanasi there, being worshipped by the people there, is Lord Shiva. He is not acting impudently that as an Acharya. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He did not go to visit Lord Shiva. In fact, Shiva has to visit him. That is the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is playing the role of an Acharya, the Supreme Vaishnava. So So he is showing how an ideal Vaishnava should behave. When he has gone to that holy place, where presiding deities, Lord Shiva, he would every day go and offer his respects. So that is explained by Prabhupada here, that one should give proper respect to Vaishnavas and the Devatas when we visit such places. And to show how, respect to the Devatas, what prayers are to be offered, that is described by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita. For Lord Ganesha there is one prayer, Yat Pada Pallavaivam Vinithavam Bhagvande Pranama Samaye Saganadi Rajaha Vignan Vihantu Madamasya Jagatrayasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaha Bhajami. How Lord Ganesha is protruding his tusks to the lotus feet of the Lord and receiving the power from the Lord to destroy all the obstacles in the three worlds. Vignan Vihantu Madamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, in that way, the prayers are in connection with the Supreme Lord. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chaya Vayasya Bhavanani Vibharti Durga Ichchana Rupam Apiyasya Chacheshta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is a prayer to Lord Durga, Goddess Durga, how she is the agency in Srishti Sthiti and Laya. And she acts as just like a shadow of the Lord. So in that way, there are prayers which are always in connection with the Supreme Lord. So when we visit such places where there are temples of demigods, we have to offer proper respects to the demigods. Now one more point, important point here, which Chitraketu is mentioning is, this is a proper understanding which Vaishnavas should have about the demigods. But there are people who are Narapashavaha, who are not devotees. They cannot understand things properly. Devotees, they understand everything properly. They don't make a mistake of equating a demigod with the Supreme Lord. They don't make that mistake. So, they completely surrender to the Supreme Lord, Ekale Ishvara Krishna, they know that, and they, for whatever material desires they may be having, they will approach the Supreme Lord only. And they also understand the position of the demigods. They know that they are empowered by the Supreme Lord Himself for universal administration, and they offer proper respects to them. They don't go to the demigods for satisfying their material desires. Because that's explained by Lord Krishna himself, that whatever benedictions are given by the demigods are sanctioned by the Supreme Lord himself. So that's explained here. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhana Mihate Lavate Cha Tata Kaman Mayaiva Vihitan Yutan. Those who don't go to the Supreme Lord directly, those who are Krita Jnana, what happens is, because the Lord is present in the heart of every living being as super soul, He inspires them to worship a particular kind of demigod. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktaha Tasya Radhana Mihate. So the Lord will inspire them to worship a particular kind of demigod, and He will make their determination and faith in the demigod steady. And then, when the Supreme Lord is there as super soul even in the heart of the demigod also. So He will inspire the demigod also to sanction the benediction. So that's why Krishna is telling that Labhate cha tatah kaman mayaiva vihitan hitan. It's actually the Supreme Lord who is sanctioning. Without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, even the demigod also cannot do anything. Maybe there are many devotees, but if the Lord doesn't sanction, the Devata is powerless. Just like in the prison house, the superintendent of jail is actually the controller there. What benefit which criminal has to get? There are also some A class, some classes are there. Isn't it? Which criminal should be given a private room? Nowadays some VIP criminals are all there. They cannot be treated with regular criminals. They need a separate room, one table has to be given, chair has to be given, one TV also, nowadays they are introducing the TV. So, who will decide that? Only the head, the in charge of the prison, not the senior criminals. They cannot decide which criminal has to be given what facility. For whatever sanction they have to do, they have to go for to the superintendent, and they may submit that these criminals are asking on TV, can we give? And superintendent will decide, no, for them we cannot give. If he decides all right we can give, then only they can give. So they're just like agents. Here just like here it's told, Maya eva vihitan hitan, unless the super soul sanctions, even the demigods also cannot give any benefit to their worshippers. So there's a nice example given in Krishna book. There was a king called Banasura. He was the son of Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj had 100 sons, and the eldest among them was Banasura. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and by pleasing Lord Shiva, he had got 1,000 arms, 500 this side, 500 this side. And with those 1,000 arms, he again pleased Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is also called as Nataraja. He is famous for his dancing, and by dancing he destroys actually. That sound vibration is so powerful that it destroys the entire cosmic creation. So when Shiva likes to dance, he needs proper rhythm and that beats mridanga and other things. Then that inspires the dancer to jump and dance nicely. So Banasura assisted Lord Shiva by nicely beating the drums with all his 1,000 arms. He was beating very nicely, and that pleased Lord Shiva even more. And then the Lord Shiva said, what do you want? You have pleased me so much. You have beaten the drums very nicely with your 1,000 arms. So you take one benediction from me. Then Banasura said, my dear Lord, you remain in my city only, and you protect me from all dangers. Then Shiva said, okay, all right. And Lord Shiva remained in the city. It's called Shonitapura, where Banasura was ruling. So he had his own palace and all very high-tech protection he had. Some canal and gaseous protection and electrified wires and all that. Even to the modern technology, if you see, it is very highly advanced. He had that protection for his kingdom. And he was ruling. And he had one beautiful daughter, Usha. She was grown up and she was well protected by Banasura in the midst of the palace with some girlfriends. This Usha somehow, while she was sleeping, she got a dream that a young prince was embracing her and kissing her, and she became really attracted to him. And she got up remembering that boy. And she had a very close friend, Chitralekha, and other girlfriends. They could make out that something has happened in her dream, some love affair. Then they asked, tell us what happened in your dream. Then Usha said, I actually saw a very beautiful, very handsome young prince. He was embracing me. I cannot live without him. I want him. Then Chitralekha was a very good artist. She started painting. I'll now start painting all great heroes. You just tell me who is he, I'll bring him to you. Then she painted Vasudeva. Then she painted Balaram. She painted Krishna. Then many Ugrasena. Some even Devatas also, Indra, Chandra, many paintings she did. And it was all not matching. When she painted Krishna, it was almost little matching. Then she painted Pradyumna, and she said, yes, almost. Then she painted Aniruddha, yes, this is the boy. She identified, this is the boy who came in my dream. Then she identified that it is Aniruddha who had come in the dream. Then immediately, Chitralekha, she had the yogic power to travel in the sky. So she went to Dwaraka. Aniruddha was sleeping in his palace. With the bed, with the cot, she palace and he's here in Shonikapura. And he gets up and he sees he's in a new place here with Usha. And Usha also was very beautiful, and she started serving Aniruddha with beautiful jewels and garlands and sandalwood bulb and singing and dancing, so many things she started doing to attract him. And he also got attracted to her, and they both were living together for a long time. It was 4 months of rainy season that time. So in Dwaraka, they could not figure out where Aniruddha has gone. Maybe he has gone somewhere, and it's 4 months anyway. He would be maybe in one place, 4 months will not return, so they were quiet. And here slowly, the guards came to know that there is something happening in the Antapura. Generally, their men are not allowed. Women are protected by men, especially Usha. So somehow the guards, somehow they could figure out that Usha is having some relation with a man by her bodily features. Generally, they could make out. And they went and reported to Banasura that your girl, your daughter, is no more pure. We feel that there is some association with a boy, so you have to act immediately. And Banasura came to the room where Usha and Aniruddha were there. They both were sitting on the bed, and just then they had embraced. So all that marks of kumkuma was there on the garland of Aniruddha. So Banasura came and saw, and was really very attracted by the beauty of Aniruddha. He felt, oh, this is a very good match, very beautiful. But at the same time, it was an insult for him, because his daughter is in a relation with a boy before marriage. In Vedic culture, it is most insulting to any family. In a respectable family, if a girl is having a relation with a boy before marriage, then that family is called a degraded family. No one will go. No respectable family will have relations with them. And especially if a girl does like that, then she is considered to be spoiled. In Vedic culture, it's like that. So Banasura was feeling very bad that his daughter has fallen down. She is no more pure, and he wanted to arrest Aniruddha. And Aniruddha also was prepared for the fight. He took a rod which was there, and he fought with all the soldiers who had surrounded him very vigorously, and Banasura himself was appreciating his vigor and valor by which he was fighting. But Banasura had some mystic power to arrest him. With Nagapasha, he arrested him and he put him in jail. So this side, Narad Muni, after 4 months of rainy season, he appeared in Dwaraka. And there Dwaraka inhabitants were all very worried, where is Aniruddha? Then all details Narada told. How Aniruddha actually had defeated all soldiers, but Banasura had arrested him. Then immediately, out of love and affection for Krishna, Balaram and Pradyumna and Satyaki and all great heroes of Dwaraka, they all went with 8 phoenixes of army to go and fight with Banasura. So when the fight began, here Lord Shiva himself was there protecting Banasura. So Shiva came with his army, all ghosts, all hobgoblins, and many Vinayakas and many followers Shiva had, and his own 2 sons, Ganesha and Kartikeya. So Shiva rode on his famous Nandi, and Shiva directly was fighting with Krishna. Balaram was fighting with Kumbhanda, the commander-in-chief of Banasura. Satyaki was fighting with Banasura directly. Pradyumna was fighting with Kartikeya. So the fight began, and it was really very fearful to see such great people fighting. Krishna is fighting with Shiva, how it will be really a very great fight it will be. And so the fight began, and while fighting, Kartikeya, Pradyumna shot many arrows at Kartikeya, and he started bleeding and he went away. And then Shiva, he also could not fight with Krishna properly. Whenever Shiva would release some astra, Krishna would counteract it. So Shiva released his famous Pashupatastra, and then Lord Krishna released Narayanastra and counteracted it. And then what happened? Krishna released one weapon called yawning weapon. When this weapon is released, the opposite party will become tired and fatigued and he starts yawning. So when Krishna released yawning weapon at Shiva, then Shiva started yawning and he went away. He could not fight anymore. And then Banasura, he was engaged with Satyaki. He understood that Shiva has gone already. There is no more need of fighting with Satyaki. Let me fight directly with Shiva. So Banasura came to fight with Shiva directly. He had his 1000 arms. So with 500 bows and 500 arrows, he started shooting at Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna broke all the 500 bows and arrows by releasing his arrows. And then he broke the chariot of Banasura. And Banasura was almost getting defeated. By that time what happened? One Devata appeared. Actually not Devata, one Kotara Mataji. Kotara was one form of Durga, I think. She was being worshipped by Banasura. She could not tolerate that Banasura is getting defeated, and she appeared in the battle with all scattered hair, and she was naked and she was trying to protect Banasura. Looking at her, Krishna could not look at her form, so he just turned his face away. Taking that situation, Banasura went away. He escaped because he had no weapons and his chariot was broken. So he went back to the palace and he wanted to prepare to fight. And after that again he came back to fight with Lord Shiva. And Shiva also returned after some time. And Shiva now released one greatest deadly weapon that is called Shiva Jwara. This weapon is released when this universe has to be destroyed. It's explained in Bhagavatam, when this universe has to get destroyed, sun starts blazing 12 times more than what it is now blazing. So that is called Shiva Jwara. So that is possessed by Lord Shiva. He released Shiva Jwara to defeat Krishna. So that Shiva Jwara personified, he appeared with 3 legs and 3 heads, with a fiery body, and he started burning everything into ashes. And he started walking towards Krishna. Then Krishna released his deadly weapon. What is it? He released Narayana Jwara, that Jwara which is very, very cold. Shiva Jwara is very hot. Narayana Jwara is very cold. When a person dies at the time of death, first the Jwara increases. And then suddenly the body becomes cold. And then he dies. When there is no heat in the body, when the body is cold, then he dies. So when you bring heat and cold together, cold will win, heat will get diminished. So when Narayana Jwara and Shiva Jwara started fighting with each other, naturally Shiva Jwara's power diminished. Because Narayana Jwara is extremely cold, Shiva Jwara is extremely hot. When you put ice on fire, fire will get diminished. In the same way, so Narayana Jwara won and Shiva Jwara could not do anything. And even Shiva, who was the owner of Shiva Jwara, he could not help Narayana Shiva Jwara anymore. So Shiva Jwara went and surrendered to Lord Krishna. He offered prayers to Lord Krishna that, my dear Lord, I cannot do anything and please accept me. And he surrendered to Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna. And then Lord Shiva released his Sudarshana Chakra to trim all the arms of Banasura. At that time, Shiva himself went and prayed to Krishna. My dear Lord, I have given assurance to Banasura that I will protect you. Please don't kill him. Please maintain my veneration. That I personally have blessed him. And then Krishna, and you also have told that you will not kill the demons in the dynasty of Prahlad Maharaj. So he is one of the descendants of Prahlad, so please don't kill, he reminded him. Then Krishna said, yes, I remember that I have blessed Prahlad, that I will not kill any demons in your dynasty. But just to teach him a lesson, to curb his pride, actually Banasura was so proud that after receiving 1000 arms, he went back to Lord Shiva and said, you fight with me, because I have 1000 arms. He's telling, no one is coming to fight with me, they're all running away. What will I do with my 1000 arms? And it's all itching. I'm going and breaking the mountains and rocks. So I want someone to fight. At that time Shiva had told, to curb your pride, there is one person, he will come. Then all your pride, your flag of victory will be destroyed. So it was Krishna himself who cut away all the arms except he left four. Four arms he left. And he said, I will not kill him because I promised I will not kill. And then he protected. Then Banasura came to his senses. He understood that worshipping Shiva is of no use. It is actually Krishna who is supreme. Immediately brought his daughter and Aniruddha in front and submitted them to Lord Krishna along with lots of dowry. And he said, my dear Lord, I surrender to you, protect me. So this is an example, best example, which is described in Krishna book itself, that unless Krishna sanctions, the sanction which a Devata would have given to his devotee is actually useless. Shiva was there personally to protect Banasura, but still the protection is not absolute protection. If Krishna wants, he can destroy Banasura immediately. So that is what is being told here, just like Yatha Rajakulam. The king would have given some gift or some sanction. But if the whole politics itself changes, all the sanctions which the king would have given to some of his subjects will be destroyed immediately. In the same way, if Krishna decides that this benediction given by this Devata should be removed, immediately it gets removed, immediately it is destroyed. So this question was asked by Parikshit Maharaj to Shukadeva Goswami. Why do devotees of the Devatas appear more opulent, especially Lord Shiva, and the devotees of Lord Vishnu appear to be very poor? Just like Shiva himself is staying in Himalayas. So in no palace, just under a tree with Parvati. They both are sitting together. That's all, they don't have any place. But their devotees, you see, Banasura had such a big palace. Ravana had Swarnapuri Lanka. They are so opulent materially. On the other hand, Vishnu, Narayana, he is in Vaikuntha Loka, full of gems and jewels and palace with Mother Lakshmi. His devotees are all begging, what is this? At that time, Shukadeva Goswami replied that Shiva is the Lord of Durga, Lord of material energy. Whatever benediction Shiva can give is nothing but products of the material energy only. Vikara of Trigunas. So this gold, diamonds, pearls and rubies and emeralds and sapphire and all this so-called wealth of this material world is nothing but dust. Triguna Vikara. At the time of creation, how these Panchabhutas appeared is explained in Bhagavatam. When the three modes of material nature, along with the interaction of eternal time Kala, there is some, the glance of the Lord also, and there are some transformations that happen. The first is sound. From sound came air. Then from first sound ether. Then ether, from ether air. From air fire. From fire water. From water earth. In that way, various transformations happen and the Pancha Mahabhutas appear. So this earth, there are many transformations of earth. Diamond, gold, silver, and rubies and all these things. So when the worshippers of Shiva go, because they are less intelligent, they don't know what is this diamond, what is this gold, they won't ask, give me gold, give me diamond, give me wealth. Wealth means these things. So what will you do with this wealth? So-called wealth, diamond, gold, what will you do? It's not going to liberate you from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore it's told here that these worshippers of demigods are Narapashus. Because only animals don't know that their only goal should be to get liberation from this material entanglement. Animals are satisfied if they could get nice food to eat, eating, sleeping, mating, depending. Four things if they get nicely, they are very happy. Just like in the slaughterhouses, if you go on this main road, many slaughterhouses are there. If you see, some sheep will be tied, 2-3 sheep. Already one is slaughtered, one or two. They are hanging. These sheep are getting grass to eat, nice they are eating. They don't know that tomorrow I will be there. sleeping, mating, depending, 4 things if you get, it's more than enough. In front of them, their friends are getting slaughtered, or tomorrow I will be slaughtered, why is this happening to me? Can I escape this slaughter? That buddhi they don't have. Similarly, these worshippers of Devatas, they're saying so many demons have died, their friends have died. So how long will I also live like this? Should I be living like this? Should I be working hard? Should I do tapasya for gold? So they don't have that buddhi to understand that our main goal should be to please the Supreme Lord and get liberated from this entanglement. This buddhi only devotees of the Lord have. Therefore, they don't ask the Lord for material benediction. They only serve the Lord eternally as their loving servants. And if the Lord wishes, He may take them back to the spiritual world. Their only desire is Tata Prema Bhakti Swakame Prayacha. My dear Lord, you just give me your loving service, that's more than enough. That itself is a liberated condition. So that is why here Chitraketu is specifically pointing out this Vishaya Trisho Nara Pasho Ya Upasate Vibhuti. Those who are less intelligent, Kritagnanas, they don't know the aim of life, they only worship the demigods for some material benefit, which should not be done in human life. So let's stop here. Rantrashna, Bhagavatam, Srimad, the Prabhupada.